We've seen a good bit of Far Cry 6 by now, including a full gameplay reveal, and I've put out numerous discussion videos on how I think various aspects of the game could improve. However, I do have a few more specific ideas and requests that don't really fit into any of the topics I've covered so far, such as outposts, side missions, and the weapon system. In this video, I want to go through my miscellaneous Far Cry 6 wish list. While these items aren't in any particular order of importance, and I don't think they should take priority over the core elements of the game, I think Far Cry 6 would be a more complete, more fun, and longer lasting game if they were included. One thing to note before we get started, I'm only going to be talking about things which haven't been confirmed one way or another yet, so this list won't include items like a map editor or arcade mode since that has already unfortunately been confirmed not to be included in this game. The first category in this list is settings and options. By far the most important option Far Cry 6 could include, preferably on launch day or as soon after launch as possible, is a New Game Plus feature. This feature was added to Far Cry 5 not long after release, and like traditional New Game Plus options, it allowed players to reset the main story, side missions, and open world progression while retaining all of their own items and character progression. This drastically increased the longevity of Far Cry 5's single player, and it led to me replaying the game well over a dozen times. Although the developers have promised that Far Cry 6 will have plenty for players to do after they finish the main story, a New Game Plus option would provide a backup for when players have truly exhausted all the other offerings of the game. One more option that should be available to players is a field of view setting. An official Ubisoft article about the accessibility features of Far Cry 6, which includes a bevy of interesting and promising settings options, mentions that an FOV slider will be included in the game. However, it's not clear if this will be limited to PC as in past Far Cry games, or if the option will finally be expanded to console players as well. Console Far Cry titles have notoriously small fields of view, to the point that climbing bell towers in Far Cry 4 or 3 is vomit-inducing on Xbox or PlayStation. I understand if an FOV slider is not realistic for the older generation of consoles, but it should absolutely be included for the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. Next, I want to talk about a couple gameplay changes and additions I'd like to see. One such feature is silent traps, which first appeared in the Far Cry series and Far Cry Primal but have not returned since. These added an extra element to the stealth-based strategies and rewarded players for learning and manipulating enemy patrol routes to their advantage in outposts and similar locations. We've already seen the introduction of some new tactical equipment such as EMP grenades, and I think lethal traps would be another good addition to Far Cry 6. Additionally, bullet penetration needs to return in this upcoming game. Snipers and some high-caliber assault rifles were able to shoot through surfaces such as walls and vehicles in order to kill enemies in older Far Cry games, but Far Cry 5 and New Dawn had significantly fewer penetrable surfaces. Even armor-piercing ammunition, which was first introduced in Far Cry 5, was really only useful for taking down enemies wearing helmets and body armor more easily. High-caliber weapons in Far Cry 6 should once again have the ability to kill enemies through certain surfaces, because these kills are often satisfying, sometimes strategically useful, and occasionally funny, complementing the core Far Cry experience very well. Finally, there are a few activity-related features that I believe would increase the long-term replayability of Far Cry 6 and make the open world more interesting and engaging. The first of these features is not a new idea per se, but rather a return to form for collectibles within Far Cry 6. The collectible items such as Lost Letters, Mohan Gale journal entries, and Masks of Yolong all had their own storylines and revealed parts of the past about the settings of Far Cry 3 and 4 that the main story in each of these games did not have time to explore. These unique standalone stories gave players a reason to hunt for all of the collectible items beyond the simple urge for completionism. Yara in Far Cry 6 has already been shown to have a rich but tumultuous history, and collectibles are the perfect way to explore the past while the main story focuses on current events. This would also be a drastic improvement over Far Cry 5, which had little to no story associated with its collectibles, and thus much less of an incentive for players to explore the world of Hope County. Additionally, I'd like to see Far Cry 6 take the idea of challenge courses to the next level. Point-to-point time trials and races known as Gran Premio events will make their appearance in Far Cry 6, similar to the Sharma Salsa events in Far Cry 4 and the Clutch Nixon missions in Far Cry 5, helping players to master their vehicular skills and providing a fun distraction from the main events of the game. These races will grant special rewards, but they should take this system a step further by including both global and friends list leaderboards and providing additional rewards for players who improve their placement on these leaderboards. Obviously, Far Cry is not designed primarily as a competitive game, but there's no reason not to make challenge courses and races replayable and semi-competitive, because such a system would provide players with objectives to grind for and reasons to get their friends to play. On a similar note, a wave-based activity similar to Far Cry 4's Shanath Arena, with its own leaderboards, progression, and rewards for ranking up, is one more way to increase the longevity of Far Cry 6. One way to make this different from Shanath is to make it a defense-based mode around a central point like an outpost or a fortress, instead of a self-enclosed arena. If Ubisoft wants to go all in, they could even make this an available activity at every outpost, wherein the player has to defend against wave after wave of enemy attackers, ranking up and earning better weaponry and defenses in the process. Regardless of the other details of how this mode is implemented, there should be options for both a limited number of waves and an infinite mode. Shanath Arena was a huge time sink in Far Cry 4 in the best way possible, and Far Cry 6 could be one of the most replayable Far Cry games ever if it builds and expands on this idea. Of course, some people may find the online leaderboards and connectivity with players outside of their own game annoying, so there should be an option in settings to turn all of these things off if you don't want to worry about how you stack up compared to other players. Lastly, I should note that if Far Cry 6 were to have an arcade mode or map editor like Far Cry 5 and other past Far Cry games, these kinds of semi-competitive activities would still be nice to have, but they would be significantly less important. Since Far Cry 6 won't have a map editor or online multiplayer other than two-player co-op, it's much more essential for open-world activities to offer some way to scratch that online interactive itch. While I hope my ideas in this video sound fun and appealing, I'm sure there are things I forgot or left out. What miscellaneous features would you like to see in Far Cry 6 beyond the core gameplay mechanics? Do you have innovative gameplay ideas, new activities in the open world, or settings and options you think would help fine-tune the player experience? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, there's been a lot of new Far Cry 6 information revealed since my last video, including a full gameplay showcase. I may not have time to complete a full video addressing all of this before the game releases, but I'll do my best to share my thoughts if you comment any questions you have for me. Be sure to subscribe for more videos about Far Cry 6 once the game releases, including in-depth analyses of the mechanics of the game and a full game review. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.